few cinematic villains can rival No Country for Old Men's Anton Chigurh in terms of sheer terror. A hulking monster, armed with a pneumatic cattle gun, Chigurh stalks the Texas landscape, laying waste to everyone and everything in his path. By film's end, he's racked up an incredible body count, and were he to be tried for crimes ranging from animal cruelty to felony murder, a ridiculous list of criminal charges to answer for. Today, we'll be analyzing just how much time and money he'd be on the hook for because of his on-screen villainy. Strap in, this will be one of our most exhaustive breakdowns yet. At the film's start, we find Chigurh in a very unexpected position, in police custody. His time as a captive doesn't last long though. As a deputy assures a colleague that the situation is under control, Chigurh slips his handcuffs beneath his feet and uses them to strangle the lawman to death on the police station floor. Only 4 minutes in, and Chigurh is already facing a life sentence for first-degree murder. We'll keep this tally running throughout, and it's going to add up quickly. He makes his escape in a stolen police car, which he uses to pull over his next unwitting victim. As he asks the confused man to step out of the vehicle, the airgun's deadly purpose becomes apparent. Chigurh uses it to punch a hole in the man's forehead, leaving him dead on the side of the road before stealing his vehicle. While Chigurh's murderous rampage gets rolling, Llewellyn Moss's hunting trip takes a dangerous turn. While scouting antelope, the Vietnam vet happens upon a Wild West shootout that's left scores of bullets and dead drug dealers littered across the desert scrubland. Quickly putting 2 and 2 together, Moss tracks the ultimo hombre, last man standing, to a shaded spot beneath a tree, where he finds and makes off with a satchel containing millions of dollars in cash. Safely back at home, Moss's guilt over leaving an injured drug dealer to die gets the best of him, and he returns to the scene of the crime by nightfall. Unfortunately for him, he's not the only one there, and the men he stumbles upon know he's made off with their money. He manages to escape with his life, but not his truck, which he knows will be used to track him. Unfortunately for Moss, the man tasked with tracking him is Chigurh. He arrives at the shootout, where he's briefed on what took place and provided with a tracker to help locate the missing money. He quickly dispatches his guides before getting in their car and beginning his pursuit in yet another stolen vehicle. Next to appear on screen are Sheriff Ed Tom and Sergeant Wendell. They attempt to recreate the grisly happenings and ponder whether Moss knows the type of men he's up against, which he clearly does, as he's packed up his belongings, put his wife on a Greyhound bus, and fled from his mobile home. And just in the nick of time, Chigurh breaks into Moss's trailer, intent on murder. But the latter's timely disappearing act leads him to sift through mail and purloin milk from Llewellyn's fridge. With Carla Jean safely en route to her mama's place in Odessa, Llewellyn sets about hiding from his deadly pursuers. He stashes the cash in the air duct of a hotel room and heads out for supplies. Upon returning, he realizes that his pursuers have caught up to him and flees, leaving the satchel for the night as he plots his next move. Chigurh, meanwhile, is busy plotting his. He heads towards Del Rio with the transponder at his side, waiting for it to pick up the signal from the stolen satchel. He passes the drive in predictably violent fashion, taking a pot shot at a crow that will earn him a few more misdemeanor charges to go with his long list of felonies. After a mere 40 minutes of screen time, he's amassed $122,500 in fines to go with 4 life sentences plus 104 years in prison. And both of these counts are only going to increase from here. Moss returns to the original hotel and secures a room directly opposite his old one. Armed with tent poles and bent coat hangers, his plan is simple. He'll use them to drag the satchel from the air duct into his new room before beating a hasty retreat. This won't be simple though, because it's not just the drug dealers that are after him. Chigurh is too. He stalks down the pavement on padded feet and blasts apart the door and the gunmen hiding inside, just as Moss retrieves the satchel. He's lucky once again, hitching a ride away from the scene with Chigurh hot on his trail, and the newly hired Carson Wells hot on Chigurh's. He settles in for the night at the Eagle Pass Hotel, where he makes a horrifying discovery. Hidden in the wad of bills is the transponder that's been broadcasting his location to his pursuers. With no time left to escape, he waits, shotgun in hand, for the inevitable. He doesn't have to wait long. The air gun blasts apart his locked door. Moss escapes out of the window as Chigurh fires at his falling form, earning him another B&E and his first attempted murder charge. As Moss runs back through the hotel lobby, more evidence of Chigurh's crime spree becomes apparent. The hotel clerk paid to alert Moss of any more visitors to the hotel has been murdered. Moss attempts to hitch a ride, but Chigurh guns down the driver before again training his sights on Moss, who is once more forced to flee amid a hail of bullets. He escapes across the Mexican border, first tossing the troublesome satchel amidst a thicket of reeds. Both men have been injured in the firefight. Moss recuperates in a Mexican hospital, while Chigurh takes a more hands-on approach to treatment. He blows up a car outside a pharmacy, uses the diversion to raid the pharmacy for drugs and medical supplies, and holes up in a hotel to begin the recovery process. Carson appears at Moss's bedside and tries to convince him to hand over the satchel to save himself from Chigurh, while Ed Tom attempts to convince Carla Jean to get Llewellyn to turn to the police to save himself from certain annihilation. Neither is successful. Nor is Carson successful in his attempt to barter for his life. Having tracked him to a hotel, Chigurh blows the shady investigator away before chatting on the phone with Llewellyn. He tells Llewellyn that he cannot save himself, but if he brings the money, he'll spare his wife. Moss isn't agreeable. Chigurh takes a momentary break from harassing Llewellyn to kill the man who hired Wells to track him down, enraged that the boss would hire multiple people to track Moss when only one perfect tool, Chigurh, was needed for the job. Back on the road, he makes small talk with a chicken farmer, questioning him on airports in the area before murdering the man and stealing his truck, which he meticulously hoses down while plotting his next move. Healed up and back on the US side of the border, Llewellyn again holes up in a hotel room. Here, however, his luck finally runs out. Ed Tom arrives at the hotel to find Moss and a number of Mexican gunmen dead. He clears the scene, confirms Moss's identity, and after a lengthy conversation with a local sheriff, decides to make one last stop before leaving town. He returns to the scene of the crime and notices a telltale sign that Chigurh is there. The lock has been punched clean out. Ed Tom unholsters his pistol and enters the room while Chigurh lurks in the shadows. But the tense moment passes without incident, aside from Chigurh adding another 10 years and $10,000 to his running total of felony evidence tampering. Carla Jean returns home from her grandmother's funeral, where she finds the Reaper-like Chigurh waiting for her. She attempts to reason with him, which gets her nowhere. The best he's willing to offer is a coin flip to decide her fate. He exits the house alone. She did not guess correctly. As he leaves the scene of his last murder, Chigurh is T-boned, leaving him bloodied and dazed with a bone protruding from his arm. He buys a shirt to use as a sling from two onlookers and pays extra for their silence, limping off into the distance, once again evading the law. The film ends with Ed Tom sitting at the breakfast table with his wife, an old lawman seemingly overmatched by the ferocious new breed of criminal Chigurh and his ilk epitomize. Ferocious might even be an understatement. By film's end, Chigurh has murdered 14 people, stolen numerous vehicles, and proved himself to be one of cinema's most iconic villains. Were he to be tried for his crimes, he'd be facing 15 life sentences, 176.5 years in prison, and $191,500 in fines. Does this punishment fit the crime, or should the law come down even harder on a man who kills everything that comes across his path? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more detailed analysis of the big screen's biggest criminals. Failure to like, share, and subscribe is punishable by a fine of $10,000 and up to 10 years in prison.